the stars are aligning for us. Senator Leahy of Vermont now has an entire state where he's from telling him you can grow hemp with permission from the DEA. That's what the state law says. Well, why isn't the DEA giving permission? And there's nothing in federal law that says they can't give permission. They can give permission. And it's not a drug. They can do it as something separate from giving license to grow a drug. It's not a drug. They have to accept that. Senator Leahy has the power, single-handedly, to change one line and one bill going through his committee, because he's the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. And right now there's a delegation of Vermont farmers who are organizing to come down and talk to Senator Leahy and hopefully convince him that you are the only person in America right now who can actually fix this problem for them. And we are your constituents. So that's the good news, and I think by next year we're going to see action on that front. He's also on the Appropriations Committee too, which makes him one of the 20 most powerful senators. And so he's like in the elite of senators, and he's a chair of the Judiciary Committee. He's very liberal. He's a friend of Democrats who are progressive. But on this issue, he hasn't taken action yet. But I think we're all sort of like, hey, next year, this is the year. So.
All right, thanks, Adam.
Be an optimist. It's time to be an optimist.
Is there another question over here? Yes.
Please. I'm sorry, but I don't want to offend anybody. Don't all of our laws start from the Bible? Ten Commandments, no, the first true laws. They took all the 10 Commandments.
Laws of Moses.
All of our laws. Thou shalt not kill, don't commit murder, don't steal, don't rob, don't do anything. All the laws are based on the Bible. I do not want to offend anybody by saying this. Please, it's not meant to offend. Green seed bearing plants, the fruit, the seed in itself, fish, which man has been given dominion over, but we're destroying it anyway. But beside that, it's given to us, and it's in the law, the true original law.
Should we just give some feedback to that? I'm a lawyer.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Is there like, I know there's...
So, okay,
there's
first
a
of all,
healing
it
argument
reminds me of that old
marijuana.
joke, you know, what you mean we, cowboy? That's right. Because, you know, there's a lot of people, tribal people especially, that were doing their thing long before the Bible was brought anywhere towards them. But where I think you have great degree of overlap is in the sense that when something comes from whatever you want to call it, God, Creator, came from nature, it's given to you naturally just like your own life was through your mama's womb, right? And that thing is a sacred thing. A lot of people believe that. A lot of people who come from a Christian background and a non-Christian background. So I would like to sort of reshape that part of your question that focuses only on the Bible and ask, well, what is that? Is that in the law? Well, there's a book, if you ever want to look into it, called The Law of the Holocaust. And it talks about the laws of Nazi Germany. I don't know if anybody's aware of this, but everything the Nazis did was legal. It just wasn't right. They were shocked when they got to Nuremberg. What are you talking about? I had a piece of paper for every single person that got murdered under my command. Well, the point is there was a break, a separation of the law from the ethical/moral backbone that supports the law. And when that happens, as in the case of Nazi Germany, the law loses its meaning. So that's the only way I can sort of express on that point, is to say that right now there's a break.
Yeah, I think most people would agree that even if you don't have a belief in God as being the source of it, that there's been some break with the natural order in that people have been able to sustain our societies for 10,000 years using farm crops like hemp, and now in 150 years of moving away from that to petrochemicals, timber, and fossil fuels and things like that, we've devastated the planet. We may not even have ice caps in another 10 years on the poles. And so we only have a few minutes left, guys, so why don't we get this? Why don't you tell us what you see next, what you're up to next, or what you see next, something along that line, so we can give people, because we want to keep everybody here for just a few more minutes because the Hemp Fashion Show is coming up shortly. Who wants to take it first?
Okay, well, I'll keep trying to keep it brief. I think what we're going to see next is building materials. Hemp building materials are going to blow up in the next couple years. Now, at the Vote Hemp Industry Association booth / Dr. Bronner booth, which is over by the main stage, we have hemp fiberboard, which you can buy right now from a wholesale person in Los Angeles. The hemp fiberboard has to be made in China, unfortunately. It has no formaldehyde in it, though, and all the plywood that you see does. So this is a great environmental improvement because it's a biodegradable board, and it's also quite attractive the way it looks. It holds stain really well. And what I'm thinking what's next is the Hemposium next year should be built out of hemp. I mean, look at the tent here. I mean, this is keeping us dry, which I appreciate that it does, and it's keeping the equipment safe. But we could do all this with hemp, and it just takes investment, it takes hard work, commitment, it takes long-term planning, and that's what I'm looking forward to, is long-term planning, developing this industry. Just last month, for the first time, I got a hold of a shirt that feels softer than any shirt I've ever felt. I don't care what material you're talking about, any material. Any impossible, anything that NASA could come up with. This stuff was softer, and it was 100% hemp. Now we have to learn more about this material because there's a lot of like skeptics now. This can't really be hemp. I mean, how could it get so soft? And this is probably a good transition to our fashion show that's coming up. But the technology with this plant is still really in the 20th century, the early 20th century. And a lot of technology is we're learning still. It took farmers in Canada 10 years to really learn how to store hemp seed. It was going rancid on them, and now they're experts. So there's this trial and error with humanity, and we're just all error these days with this plant. And when we get to trial, it's gonna rock.
All right. Anybody else have a pointer? Where are you seeing things going next?
Well, I agree with Adam as far as the building materials being what's happening next. But I also see it, speaking of the fashion show, as fabric. Hemp fabric is incredible. There's all kinds of fabric. It's not a burlap or anything like that. There's as soft as silk and thick as canvas and everything in between. So building materials, textiles, paper. I was in the printing industry. Paper is being wasted, which means the forests are getting decimated. But hemp paper could actually solve the deforestation problem. That's a flat-out truth. And what we have to do is legalize hemp. So I think what we have to do is join up. You know, you have to get in touch. You have to do the things that are the work, the manual labor. You know, it's said all the time, call your congressman, call your councilman. You can do that. You can go to votehemp.com. I want to emphasize this. There are the tools in place waiting for you to pick them up. Votehemp.com. You can go to your local representative, your state representative, your federal representative. It's all laid out for you. It's easy as pushing a few buttons and your voice can be heard. Also, the hempindustries.org. You go to the industry itself and see what's going on. Learn about it. Educate yourself. Educate people. Get in touch with us. Text us change at 729-669. It's very important. Because the hemp industry, we're at the turning point. Right? There's going to be a change of administration. There's going to be a change in attitude. It's already happened with the green economy. People are aware that the planet is in trouble, and hemp is one of the answers.
All right. So then you see the next step is what you do is the next step that's going to change these laws. Okay, David Frankel, what's your thought on the future?
The Union of Concerned Scientists said a long time ago that 80% of ongoing ecological harm comes directly from a handful of ongoing human activities: food, clothing, shelter, driving, things like that. And every one of those categories, the harm is taken away when you incorporate hemp and hemp products into the process. So it's simple. And I guess the only other thing I would say is I keep walking around in different places and just observing. I'm living in the future. I live in a world where there's so many cannabis dispensaries in California, for example, that they're full of a list in a magazine that's printed here. And I live in a world where you can drive through and get biodiesel and hemp products and organic and vegan ice cream at the fuels place. You know, there's sequential biofuels all up and down Oregon. I'm living in the future. We are in the future. We just have to remember that and keep acting like we're already there, because we are, and remember that the old